I want you to imagine the scariest man in the world, Klaus Barbie. They called him the Butcher of Lyon. He was the head of the Gestapo in France. He was a man who enjoyed torture. He was a monster who sent thousands of innocent people to the death camps without blinking an eye. He was terrified of absolutely nothing except one person. And that person wasn't a general. It wasn't a tank commander. It wasn't a sniper. It was an American woman with a bad leg. In 1942, Klaus Barbie was losing his mind. His supply trains were blowing up. His prisoners were escaping from maximum security jails. His secret messages were being intercepted. He screamed at his officers, "Who is doing this? Who is running this network?" He issued a famous order that went out to every Nazi soldier in France. It said, "The woman with the limp is the most dangerous of all Allied spies. We must find and destroy her." He didn't know her name. He only knew her description: a tall, striking woman who walked with a slight limp. What he didn't know was that the limp came from a wooden prosthetic leg she had named Cuthbert. This is the story of Virginia Hall. She was rejected by her own country. She was told she was unfit for service. So she went rogue, became a master of disguise, and single-handedly organized the French resistance while being hunted by the entire Third Reich. If you think James Bond is cool, wait until you meet the lady who did it for real in a skirt and heels. Welcome to Valor and Heritage. Virginia Hall didn't start out as a spy. She was born in Baltimore into a wealthy family. She was a debutante. She went to the best schools. She was supposed to marry a rich banker and host dinner parties, but Virginia was different. She famously once wore a bracelet made of live snakes to her high school just to freak out the other girls. She wanted adventure. She wanted to see the world. So, against her parents' wishes, she went to Europe. She wanted to be a diplomat for the US State Department, but back then, the State Department was an old boys' club. They hired men. They didn't hire women for the important jobs. Virginia was stuck being a clerk, typing memos in Turkey. Then, disaster struck. In 1933, while on a hunting trip in Turkey, she climbed over a fence. Her shotgun snagged on her coat. Boom! She shot herself in the left foot. The wound was catastrophic. Gangrene set in. The doctors had no choice. They had to amputate her leg below the knee. Imagine being 27 years old. Your dream of being a diplomat is already hard because you're a woman. Now you have a wooden leg. The State Department sent her a letter basically saying, "Sorry, we have a strict rule. Diplomats must be physically able-bodied. You are fired." Most people would have gone home to Baltimore and lived a quiet life. Virginia Hall got mad. She named her wooden leg Cuthbert. Why? No idea. Maybe it sounded funny. But she learned to walk again. She learned to ride a horse again. She learned to ski again. She refused to let Cuthbert slow her down. When World War II started in 1939, she was in Paris. She drove ambulances for the French army while the bombs were falling. When France surrendered to the Nazis, she had to flee to England. At a dinner party in London, she met a British spy. He was impressed by her. He said, "You know the language, you know the terrain, and frankly, nobody suspects a woman with a wooden leg." He recruited her into the SOE, the Special Operations Executive. Their motto was, "Set Europe ablaze," and Virginia was the match. In August 1941, Virginia Hall arrived in Vichy, France. She posed as a reporter for the New York Post. This was her cover. It allowed her to travel around, interview people, and gather news. But she wasn't gathering news. She was recruiting an army. Her code name was Germaine. She settled in the city of Lyon. She set up a safe house in a convent. She recruited nuns. Yes, nuns. She recruited the madam of a local brothel.
She recruited doctors and police officers. She realized that the people the Nazis ignored, women, priests, the poor, were the best spies. Her network grew to over 90 agents. They were sabotaging rail lines and hiding British pilots who had been shot down. But her greatest feat was the jailbreak. 12 of her agents were captured and thrown into the Mozac prison. It was a fortress. The British told Virginia, "Leave them, it's too dangerous." Virginia said, "Watch me." She managed to smuggle a tin of sardines to the prisoners. Inside the tin, hidden in the oil, was a tiny file and a key. The prisoners spent weeks filing down a spoon to make a duplicate key. Then Virginia bribed a guard with cigarettes and money to look the other way. On the night of the escape, the prisoners unlocked their cells, climbed over the wall using a rope made of bed sheets, and vanished into the woods where Virginia had a truck waiting. It was one of the most embarrassing security failures in Nazi history. Klaus Barbie was furious. He knew the Limping Lady was behind it. We're about to see the most physically grueling escape of the war, a woman with one leg climbing a mountain range in winter. But before we start the climb, I have a dossier for you. If you love uncovering the secrets of history that they kept hidden for decades, decode that subscribe button right now. We are revealing the truth, one mission at a time. Join the network. Now, put on your snow boots. By late 1942, the Nazis were closing in. They occupied the whole of France. Klaus Barbie had narrowed down Virginia's location. She had to get out, or she would be tortured and executed. The only way out was over the Pyrenees Mountains into Spain. This is a brutal mountain range. It was November. It was snowing. The passes are 7,000 feet high. Even for a fit person with two legs, this is a deadly trek. Virginia Hall had to do it with Cuthbert. She hired a guide, but he was unreliable. She walked for days in waist-deep snow. The cold caused the stump of her leg to shrink, which meant the wooden leg didn't fit anymore. It was rubbing her skin raw. Every step was agony. She was bleeding into her prosthetic. At one point, she managed to send a radio message back to London. She typed, "Cuthbert is giving me a lot of trouble, but I can cope." The British officer on the other end didn't know Cuthbert was her leg. He thought it was a fellow agent. He replied, "If Cuthbert is troublesome, have him eliminated." Can you imagine? She's freezing to death on a mountain. Her leg is killing her, and her boss tells her to kill her leg. She probably laughed. It was that dark humor that kept her alive. She made it. She crossed the mountains and stumbled into Spain. She was arrested by the Spanish police for not having papers, but she charmed her way out of that too. She eventually made it back to London. Most people would have retired. She had done her bit. She was safe. But Virginia Hall wasn't done. She requested to go back to France. The British SOE said, "No way. You're too famous. The Nazis know your face. We can't send you back." So Virginia quit the British Secret Service and joined the Americans. The OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, which was the predecessor to the CIA, was just getting started. They said, "We'll take you." In 1944, just before D-Day, Virginia Hall went back, but this time she couldn't be herself. She disguised herself as an old peasant woman. She dyed her hair gray. She shuffled when she walked, which hid her limp perfectly. She even ground her teeth down to look like an old farm wife. She traveled the countryside selling cheese to German soldiers. While she was weighing the cheese, she was counting their trucks and tanks. She radioed the coordinates to the Allies. She organized supply drops for the resistance. By the time the Allies liberated her sector, her network had killed over 150 Germans and captured 500 more. She personally called in airstrikes that destroyed bridges to stop the panzer divisions. When the American troops finally arrived, they were shocked to find the fierce resistance leader, Marcel, was this quiet American lady with a wooden leg. After the war, President Truman wanted to give her the Distinguished Service Cross. the second highest medal for bravery in the U.S. Army. He wanted a big public ceremony at the White House. Virginia said no. She said, "I'm still a spy. I want to keep working." So in a private ceremony in a small office, the head of the OSS pinned the medal on her. She was the only civilian woman to receive it in World War II. She went on to work for the CIA for years. She was the first female operations officer in the agency. But because she was a woman, the men at the CIA often sidelined her. They put her behind a desk. They forgot that this woman had done more in the field than all of them combined. She died in 1982, largely unknown to the public. It's only recently that files have been opened and we finally know the truth. Virginia Hall proved that courage isn't about physical perfection, it's about will. She dragged a wooden leg across a continent to fight for freedom. She was the ultimate ghost. If you think Cuthbert deserves a medal too, leave a comment, the Limping Lady. Next time on Valor and Heritage, we're heading to the frozen hell of the Korean War. We're going to talk about the frozen Chosin and the Marines who fought their way out of a Chinese trap at 30 degrees below zero. You do not want to miss this one. I'm Baylor. Keep your secrets safe.